You ready, Dave?
I'm ready, Slick. Are you?
Oh, yeah.
A jungle junkie.
With your hosts, Danny Mendez and Andy V. Begin broadcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's right. Welcome to the Urban Jungles Radio Show. I'm your Beastmaster at large, Danny Mendez, and also at your service for the rest of the evening. And barely making it back from his Valentine's Day kinky boudoir pictures is my wingman, Andy V, on the couch of shame tonight.
Yeah, I'll say it's the couch of shame tonight.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you tonight?
I'm good, hanging in there. Welcome to another rattling episode of the Urban Jungles Radio Show. Like that?
I like that.
Tonight, we delve deep into the festivities. Oh, sorry, I apologize for those of you watching. It's been started.
Boy.
I'm talking, of course. I've got a big glass of wine sitting here with us this evening. Everybody, give it up for my glass of wine! Yay! All right.
Yay, wine.
So anyway, we're talking about festivities and the festivities that are collectively known as Rattlesnake Roundups. As the season is in full swing right now, like machetes making key rings, literally. It's it. So as you know, here at Urban Jungles Radio, aside from playing, Angry Birds, I didn't realize that was still up there. So as you know, here at Urban Jungles Radio, we take roundups quite seriously and hold them to one of our main campaigns, really, hold them as one of our main campaigns. As long as I can possibly keep doing it, we will definitely fight tirelessly to bring an end to these barbaric events, along with your help, of course. And it all starts with awareness and spreading the word. So that's what we're trying to do here tonight. No one in their right mind is going to be okay with this. At least no one like outside of 100-mile radius of where these events take place. It is really okay with this, what happens at these events. Even people who don't like snakes really can agree that, you know, it's kind of barbaric, and
it's cruelty at its finest, really, is what it comes down to.
It really is. It's so interesting because of the fact that it's cruelty that would normally not be tolerated for any other animal.
Absolutely not.
Obviously, rattlesnakes, because obviously you don't unfortunately get a much more maligned animal than rattlesnakes. So these events go on, you know, with reckless abandon in some places, just nonstop, and it's got to stop. It can't keep going for a lot of reasons, and most of those we'll discuss throughout the course of the evening tonight as we delve deeper into that. So make sure you help us to start the beginning of the end here with these roundups, and of course starts with awareness. So whatever you learn, whatever you know about rattlesnakes, you hear about tonight.
Look at the shirt I'm wearing
tonight,
my friend.
Andy's got his representing the Stop Rattlesnake Roundup shirt from Conservative. Andy, why don't you do a little pirouette there so everybody can see your
I don't pirouette.
Education, not eradication, the Stop Rattlesnake Roundup shirt that Andy's wearing, over from our friends over at Newt's Tees, good people over there. And that's exactly what it is, man. You get the gear, wear the shirts, listen to the episodes, post it on your Facebook wall, tell everybody, tell the layman, tell your aunt, your uncle, your mammy, your pappy, your granny, tell everybody that, you know, this is something that's going on and it needs to stop. It really can't go for a lot of different reasons. So in just a little while, we'll hear from experts in the field who help paint a better picture of what's going on through firsthand experiences, which is obviously very important with these things. So.
Yeah, I had an uncle of mine ask me a little while ago what the whole situation was with their rattlesnake roundups, because, you know, he's seen it on Animal Planet, and he didn't think anything of it. He just figured they were going out and collecting, and, you know, he figured because it was a television show, obviously it was going to be all staged and whatnot, and I pretty much had to lay it down for him exactly how it went. And he was a cop for 40 years, so he's seen a lot of shit. And he got really upset when I told him exactly what was happening at these things.
And they really, really sugarcoated on Animal Planet. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Animal Planet. I'm not done with you. We will definitely be focusing on Animal Planet for a night because of the fact that I think we have to undo some of the damages that Animal Planet has done in the way that they're portraying these rattlesnake roundups, namely in the way they portray it in their show Rattlesnake Republic, which basically centers on these, rattlesnake hunters, big hunter guys who go out and obtain the snakes for these roundups. And the TV show is based on these guys, and it glorifies them to an extent, and it celebrates what it does. Makes no mention whatsoever, of what actually ends up happening to the rattlesnakes that are featured on that show. The rattlesnakes that they're going around and they're catching on the show and they're celebrating, make no mention of the fact that those snakes are going to be sitting, for months in boxes.
Yeah, exactly. Or how long they're sitting when they're captured. The people who watch these shows, like my uncle, thought they were being captured for the television show and then used in this festival and then let go. It was only a week or 2 weeks that he was figuring, but I told him it was months, if not a year, in some areas. Not necessarily the one we're going to talk about tonight, but some of the bigger ones they hold them for a year.
Yep. We'll actually hear about that because a little later on we'll have Tom Crutchfield coming on and he'll tell us about what he saw at the Whigham, Georgia Rattlesnake Roundup, and it was not very much dissimilar to what we're discussing right now.
And that's one of the smaller ones.
Without a doubt, we have an action-packed show for you this evening. But unfortunately, I have to remind you guys, we are off next week, so make sure you soak it all in. Soak it in until you smell like me, Andy, like Carol Ann and Poltergeist. Did you ever get that? Or did you get the smell? I forget. Anyway, so you have derailed in a major way. Oh boy. Let's kick it off, Andy, before it gets any worse.
Please.
This is Emma Locke from the Human Centipede 2, and you're listening to Urban Jungles Radio. Join Danny Mendez live every Friday night at 10 p.m. in his quest to bring you the very best in cold-blooded entertainment. From special guest appearances to heated debates. You're listening to Urban Jungles Radio.
Listen, before we get started tonight, I want to take a moment to talk about someone who's very special, who's actually a friend of the show's, and who needs our help. So real quick, I want to talk about Rico Walder. For those of you who don't know, Rico is an innovative breeder and hardcore hobbyist who, as a zookeeper, broke out of his mold and chased a dream of breeding beautiful animals. And he did it in a way that unlike anyone else could. Many of you know Rico from Signal Herpetoculture. He's a breeder who specializes in arboreal snakes, emerald tree boas, green tree pythons, and one of our very first guests here at Urban Jungles Radio, Andy, were you here?
That was pre-me.
That was pre-you. Look at that. So Rico predated Andy on Urban Jungles Radio, talking about tree boas.
Bastard.
Yes, that bastard is a true leader, and he's also a really great person in the industry. In a world of egos and secrets, Rico is always quick to talk snakes with anyone who's as passionate as he is. He's truly one of the great guys in our industry, and right now he needs our help. A couple of weeks ago, after suffering a seizure, Rico learned that he's battling several brain tumors, which will take a lot of time and money to win over, unfortunately. From what I know right now, he's currently planning on dissolving his collection of snakes, which is one of the most magnificent arboreal collections, outside of certain select rainforests you'll find in South America and Indonesia. He really is a pioneer and has done so much. And unfortunately, that probably won't be enough. So friends of Rico have set up a relief fund, which I'd like to ask you guys to closely consider, especially if you know Rico and if any way you've benefited from his many contributions to herpetoculture and what we know about snakes and breeding snakes in captivity.
I posted the link in our chat room tonight. I'll also post it on the main page tonight as well.
We'll repost it up on our Facebook page as well, and I'll get it up on our website, urbanjunglesradio.com. It's at giveforward.com/Rico Relief Fund. So please consider Rico is one of the best people we have in our industry. He's always raising the bar and breaking through in ways that many people could only wish they have with, you know, such a select core group of animals. He's very dedicated, and he obviously, like I said, needs our help. So Urban Jungles Radio is going to commit itself to helping Rico out. We asked that all of our jungle junkies, any of you who've had any personal experience, especially with Rico, you know, dig in. Any little bit helps. He's up for literally the battle of his life, and we want to be able to help him out as best we can.
And
so
brain tumors are no joke. Not that any form of cancer is something to scoff at, but, you know, brain tumors are just so much more serious than a lot of the other cancers that are out there. And, you know, our fingers are crossed. We hope you pull through, Rico. We really do.
We love you, Rico. We love you
Absolutely.
here at Urban Jungles Radio, and we wish you nothing but the best. And we'll see you through this together, man. Hang in there, buddy. Obviously tonight the topic on hand are rattlesnake roundups. Georgia has one of the richest histories in rattlesnake roundups, with almost as many, if not more, roundups than Texas at some point. Today, all but one of the roundups is dead, and leaving only the Wiggum rattlesnake roundup essentially as a relic of the old school roundups, where the animals are captured from the wild and then later slaughtered in a public spectacle. All of Georgia's other roundups have either abandoned the practice or have removed rattlers. They've abandoned the practice of removing rattlers from the wild, I should say, completely altogether. Mm-hmm. Last year, Klaxton, Georgia, for instance, replaced its roundup with the Klaxton Rattlesnake and Wildlife Festival, which displays captive rattlesnakes along with many other educational wildlife exhibits. So while attendance at the Wiggum Roundup has actually dropped in past years, the new Wildlife Festival in Klaxton actually received a boost in attendance and a lot of high praise from environmental groups, with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, biologists, and others who've actually lobbied for many years against rattlesnake roundups. So one of the groups working closely with the event promoters is the Orianne Society. For those of you who don't know, we absolutely love the Orianne Society here at Urban Jungles Radio. It's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 organization which works to help imperiled snakes on a global level. Essentially, where they're needed, they are there. Jungle Junkies might recall listening to Dr. Chris Jenkins, who's the CEO, who came on our show to tell us about them. Well, tonight it's my pleasure to welcome another member of the organization to the Urban Jungles Radio Show. Tonight we're going to be speaking with Mr. Fred Antonio, who is the director of the Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation. So before I butcher anything else anymore, I'm going to go ahead and bring Fred on. Fred, wait.
Yes, good evening, Danny.
Hi, Fred. How are you? Welcome to the show, Fred. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, we are huge fans of the Orianne Society and what you guys are doing, and I've been wanting to talk to you guys for a long time about your participation, especially in making roundups a better place and working towards rattlesnake conservation in general.
Yeah, well, actually, last year was the first year that we engaged with the Klaxton Roundup, and it's happening again in about 2 weeks on the 9th and 10th, and we'll be up there again, bringing rattlesnakes up there. We're going to bring about 20 or so from the Orianne Indigo Snake Center, and combined with some education snakes that'll be coming down from Clayton, be doing that festival. And we certainly refer to it as a festival now, because as of last year, it converted from a roundup to a festival where at the end of the weekend, all snakes went home and no snakes were harmed. So that was a fantastic conversion, and the guys down there, Georgia DNR, and certainly and foremost the Evans County Wildlife Club, deserves a lot of accolades for that.
Very nice. Absolutely. And you guys deserve accolades for taking this step forward and actually being on the ground, willing to provide education for this. The really cool thing about what I love about Orianne Society is I've been lucky to meet several people from your organization, and everybody there is just like such a great expert of what it is they encompass and what they do. I mean, I've had the pleasure, as I told you, Fred, of meeting of Dirk Stevenson, who introduced me to my first wild indigo snake, and it's great to have such a great talented group of people there on the floor. It gives us great hopes for the future of these organizations. Now, you're actually no stranger to Eastern Diamondback rattlesnakes. You were the AZA population manager for a while, from what I understand.
That's correct. Ever since I actually moved to Florida in the early mid-'70s, I've just been totally fascinated with Eastern Diamondbacks, and I keep a private collection also, like certainly many of your listeners, primarily venomous, and I've been breeding Eastern Diamondbacks, mainly albinos, for about 10 years now.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So you obviously are familiar with the plight that the snakes have had over the course of many years at these roundups. Now, what was it like stepping into a well-known roundup like Klaxton in the first year, this transitional year where they were switching to an educational type of program? I mean, were you guys, did you know what to expect? Or was it just, I don't know. I don't even know how to begin that.
Yeah, well, it was, we really viewed it as an opportunity, certainly an opportunity both for, education, presenting, snakes as real animals that are, the part of nature and deserve, the respect and protection that most other vertebrates get. And the opportunity that presented itself was that we would help support a festival, a wildlife-friendly event, as opposed to a consumptive, typical classical roundup where Sunday afternoon the snakes were packed up and ended up at a skin shop. So we were really jumping at the opportunity to get involved in that and really make it work.
And how were the organizers? I mean, were they receptive to what you guys were putting out there?
Yes, they are very much so. And the organizers of Klaxton is run by the Evans County Wildlife Club, and they've been very supportive, and they're very excited about the conversion from their roundup that they actually conducted for 45 years, and then this last year in 2012 converted. And they're very excited. I understand that some of the members of the club have even gone down to Wiggum this year to kind of help plant the seed that hey, you can do a weekend event. It can be extremely successful. It's something that you can convert to, and it becomes you get a wider audience. It's a more family-oriented weekend. Certainly there's a lot of education talks, and there's other NGOs and conservation organizations that have now joined the festival in support of the conversion, and so it's a very dramatic event, and it's one that I think everyone, certainly in the herp world, needs to really support and let them know that that change of venue is not only appreciated but supported by the community.
Absolutely. So what can someone expect now when going to this new festival as far as what Orianne contributes?
Well, we're going to be bringing, about 20 rattlesnakes down, and they have kind of a main arena design-wise where, that is certainly a holdover from the past. Mm-hmm. But there will be snakes that, rattlesnakes kind of set up in pens that people can see. There'll be a variety of talks over the weekend that are, educationally focused. And then it's more of just like a general festival where there's lots of, arts and crafts and, foods for sale and things like that. Just kind of, a typical nice, weekend family-oriented event, out and about. So it really has a little something for everyone. But certainly the main concern and reason why we are there is to support conservation of eastern diamondback rattlesnakes, and the fact that everybody goes home at the end of the weekend, all their snakes go home as opposed to being butchered is the primary goal.
Right. I mean, with so many positives now being able to be demonstrated, especially with Klaxton, what do you think are some of the reasons that maybe some of the older festivals, like I guess really it's only Wiggum at this point, would want to hold over?
Well, there's certainly kind of southern tradition associated with these events. Mm-hmm. These events are normally kind of the biggest weekend income that these towns have during the year. So it's certainly a financial gain for them. And I think what we kind of need to keep in mind, although we're very spirited and passionate about educating the public and people and turning people on to snakes and particularly offering the good things that rattlesnakes do in natural communities and how valuable they are. These conversions from roundups to festivals, which occurred in Fitzgerald, Georgia, that roundup converted to a wildlife-friendly festival in about 2001. Klaxton did last year, so it just leaves Wiggum and then one in Alabama. So 2 out of 4, have converted over to a festival at this point. But it's not really because all of a sudden, the people that attend these events and the organizers all of a sudden love eastern diamondbacks or canebrakes or pygmy rattlesnakes. It's that, it becomes a more successful event for them, not only in attendance but in money. And so, the education part is certainly, a very paramount thing for our organization to present. But basically, you have to make it more profitable for Wiggum to go into a festival as opposed to stay at a roundup, and the same thing in Alabama. And it's really only by having a economically successful and progressive event that it becomes accepted. So it's I think the public really expects more these days from going out on the weekend, going to a festival, and engaging and taking time and spending money and going to those types of things. It's it's something that from TV shows and nature programs. I think families these days really aren't behind brutality and cruelty to animals and killing snakes and things like that. We get a lot of phone calls from people that have a rattlesnake in their yard, and they call and they say, "Hey, I understand it's not good to kill snakes anymore. Can you guys come and help us out?"
Nice.
So there seems to be kind of a change of attitude, and I think people would much more rather flock to a festival that's celebrating wildlife rather than an event that's killing it.
Absolutely. So what can we do then, as far as the concerned herpers and just animal lovers in general? What can we do to help Orianne society continue with the groundbreaking education that you guys are doing and bringing to these organizations, especially?
Well, I think, people, in the herp world can certainly get the word out. They can participate, and, certainly everybody that's into reptiles and amphibians are always speaking on their behalf and trying to change attitudes and turn people on to snakes and things like that. Certainly, joining the Orianne Society, becoming a member, there's lots of benefits, but primarily you're helping snake conservation in the field. Is super important, and we are a very unique organization in that we are totally focused on snakes. So that has its challenges on its own. Obviously, it's not a big, warm and fuzzy panda or tiger cub or dolphin. so we have more of a select group, so certainly supporting the Orianne Society. And if you go to our website, you can really see some great examples of things we're involved with. So it's you can really see what your support would go for. But certainly, a lot of HERP people do a lot of education. They do shows, and so it's a pretty tight-knit community, and one that is pretty progressive. And when you're promoting one of the species in the world that is the most persecuted globally, it's certainly challenging.
Yeah, you definitely need all the help you can get. It's a hell of a project. But I love Orianne's goal. I mean, I love your goals, and I love, the way you go about changing people's minds with education, all the cool posters you guys come up with, and of course the on the ground, I should say, reading programs. And obviously, I'm assuming you have a lot to do with the Indigo conservation program going on there right now. Yeah,
the Orianne Society is centered out of Klaxton, Georgia, and then we have a Indigo snake preserve in Telfair County in south central Georgia. And then here in central Florida, about halfway between Orlando and Daytona, we have our breeding center. So this center has been specifically built primarily to breed indigo snakes for reintroduction projects and programs, mainly in the Florida Panhandle in that area, and also an ongoing release that we're partnering on in Connecticut National Forest. So, our main thrust is eastern indigo snake. We're housing lots of rattlesnakes, mainly to support the Klaxton, conversion from Roundup to Festival. But we certainly see a lot of other, captive breeding projects down the road, things that we can really make a difference with.
Yeah, absolutely. I love so many of the programs, and such a successful program so far with the Easterns as well. I mean, kudos to you guys for working things in a way that really no one's ever done. The stuff that Orianne is doing is really spectacular, and I'm glad that you guys are...
That's great to hear. I'm glad we certainly hear periodically from people that go to the website and comment on our work, and I think they're really impressed. And had I not been with the Orianne Society and went to the Orianne Society website and saw everything they're doing, it would blow my mind too. So it's you were talking about some of the talents in the organization. I'm continuously impressed about the people that have been attracted into the Orianne Society, and certainly our partners. And we have partners all over the Southeast and the nation and globally through the IUCN Viper Specialist Group that Chris Jenkins has started. So, we're really focused on snakes worldwide.
Spectacular stuff coming out. I urge you guys all to go check out the website. As we've been talking to you here, we're playing the website in the background and checking out all the amazing pictures and some of the projects you guys are working for too, including some of the species-based projects that you have on everything from timber rattlesnakes all the way even bushmasters and Burmese pythons. It's just an incredible amount of diversity, but it's all snakes, which is awesome because nobody does anything for snakes. So yay, snakes.
That's right.
I've also been posting all the links on our in our chat room here tonight, Fred. So we got a lot of links for people to go to.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We really appreciate that. It's great to get the word out.
And congratulations on your first captive-born birth of an indigo snake.
Well, thank you. She's certainly the star at the show out at the Orianne Center, and we bring her little fuzzy mice on these little silver trays every other day, and she's perfectly happy.
It's it really is a horrible thought for anyone who especially is into field herping to know that you might not have the opportunity of seeing what is easily our native, most majestic, amazing snake. I mean, I cannot begin to convey the amazingness of finding, a 9-foot long snake out in the wild in the U.S. And, aside from our own, pleasure of finding snakes in the wild, I digress. I am glad that they're establishing, you guys are working to establish them in the ecosystem, which is of course much more important than my herping pleasure. But no, I am glad that you guys are out there on the ground working for it. We definitely will help to spread the word about the Orianne Society. Everybody, make sure you get to the website, get behind this organization. This is an organization you get behind 100% without a worry, because they're just awesome at everything they do. I know it firsthand. I've met the people. You've heard the people. Here we go. Like Fred here is joining us this evening. Fred, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about it and helping to give us some insight, what it's like to break into this new venue. And it certainly does give us hope that there is a chance that the rest of these roundups will hopefully see the light and, move towards something better, like you are obviously working to demonstrate.
Well, thank you, Danny, and thanks for having me. I hope to be back again sometime.
Absolutely. It will be our pleasure. Thanks. Everybody, give it up for Fred. Thank you, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Awesome stuff. I am just so in love with the Orianne Society. I mean, Fred Antonio, it totally played himself down. This is a gentleman who, he was a zookeeper for many years, passionate herper, works with the AZA. He still is on some steering committees, and here he is. He starts a lot of the captive breeding initiatives that go on at Orianne Society. So amazing organization, like I said, with amazing people on it. Fred Antonio, director of the Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation. Thank you very much, Fred. Please do check out their website and get behind them. Become a member. It's not expensive and it's totally worth it. And they have the coolest, quirkiest ads and posts and cool stuff.
I mean, for crying out loud, they're working with indigo snakes, one of the most beautiful, intelligent snakes you're ever going to come across.
Yeah, man. If you ever want to learn an iconic animal and an iconic cornerstone of conservation, especially in a model for a reptile and for snakes, look at the indigo snake. I mean, you're talking about a very complex animal, working in situations you would never have thought of. I mean, before I learned about indigos, the stuff that I learned absolutely floored me. Breeding, they usually breed dead winter. Like 50 something degrees outside, they're out breeding.
Wow.
Sometimes they've been noted over some of the parts of range to be breeding on Christmas Day when it's been very cold, just crazy stuff. And so they're these machines, and they breed and then they eat everything they can just fit into their mouths. It's amazing. I mean, we found digested baby gopher tortoise shells and stuff like that in their feces from when they eat baby gopher tortoises and stuff.
Wow.
And I mean, and then just the fact of just seeing these amazing snakes, to know that a giant snake like that exists and lives.
Have you ever had the opportunity to see one in the wild?
Well, Andy, I'm glad you. No, I did actually.
Yeah.
With actually Dirk Stevenson.
Really?
Who is working with them here in the Orianne Society. Dirk Stevenson. I forgot what his actual title is with Orianne, but anyway, I had the pleasure before he was working with Orianne of knowing him through my good buddy Eitan Grunwald, of course, master herper and such an amazing guy. So Eitan had invited me to go meet up with Dirk down in Georgia, where we went looking for indigo snakes, and I found the first one in the group, and it was just amazing 8-9 foot animal, stunning. And it's crazy, when I first saw it, it was, they live in like I said, certain habitats. So they have these little kind of sand caves that they make. And sometimes there's a little, like a chimney on top of it that just allows for aeration and temperature control. And they'll make these little holes, like dorsal surface holes and stuff, all this cool stuff. So anyway, we were walking in a known area for indigos, and we were actually trying to track some with, telemetry, and we couldn't get any on radio tracking with telemetry. So I was just wandering about, and I looked over and I thought I saw what looked to me like the tire of a toy truck. It was this big round rubber thing sticking out of the ground. So I walk over to take a look at it, and I realize it's just one coil of a snake sticking up, just one loop above the surface. There was a hole in the ground, and I don't know if he had saw me and then tried to duck back in, and maybe that was the process where he was just trying to go back in or whatever, but he just had one coil above the surface, so it just looked like a round thing. And I look up to it, and I remember walking up to it and just seeing it. When I saw scales, I just dove on it, and I grabbed it, and when I grabbed it, I pulled it up, and as I pulled it up, I remember it just kept coming and coming and coming.
Did it try to pull you back into the hole?
Nah, it was so mellow. It was such an amazing animal, and he was so calm and cool. And what was cool was it was an animal that they had known about, but they had actually lost for about 2 or 3 years. I don't think they had him telemetered, so they had lost him for a couple of years, and they thought he was gone, and they thought he was either captured or killed or something.
Now maybe it's how do they know it was the same one that they were kind of looking for a couple years now.
They are pit tagged usually, and what the pit tag is, it's just a short range one. So you can't use a pit tag for tracking. You can only use it to identify animals. So either they're pit tagged or they have like scale clippings in certain places for this study group. But this one was pit tagged, and the pit tag was still in place. So we brought him up, and they needed to do workup on him. So like Dirk walked me through the procedures on this snake, which was amazing. I got to do like a cardiac tap to take blood samples. I mean,
wow,
just amazing stuff in the field. This is going out, on the back door of a pickup truck in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. But it's field science at its best.
Yeah,
and that was
man.
my introduction.
That's raw.
It was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. And I mean, it was a memory that I'll have forever of seeing a wild indigo snake. And I've been lucky enough to see a few after that, including even like a different species in Texas. I was able to find one out in Texas, which was awesome, a Texas indigo. But just amazing. And I can't convey that, man, to know that there's a native snake out there that is just like like the size of your leg, and and it's awesome. It's just such an awesome, it's the king of snakes. It just takes down everybody and everything in its path, when it wants to. And it's this smart animal. And it loves having sex and eating and sleeping. Like,
there's nothing about the snake I don't like.
It's the perfect snake, seriously.
And you said it was, from the wild, it was so chill. I mean, that's
probably
awesome too.
Well, that probably had to do with the fact that it was coming up out of brumation still, so it was a little on the cool side. And then he was also kind of beat up. We're now learning about this fungus that's kind of growing in our rattlesnake populations, and I don't know if that's what we were seeing at the time, but I remember he was really beat up. I'll show you some pictures. He had some like facial deformities and stuff.
You had mentioned that he looked kind of like a tire, and one of the people in the chat room tonight said they look like living tires.
Yeah. It looked like a toy truck tire out there, and I'll never forget grabbing that loop and being like, this couldn't be the snake. And then you grab the loop and it's like, holy shit, that's the snake, and it's just fantastic. And I mean,
that's so cool, man.
I hope that everybody has the opportunity to find something. Even here in Jersey, Andy, with our pine snakes, finding a pine snake is just an amazing thing.
Totally.
These big snakes have a chance still, and they live in these little pockets of wildlife in our world. So anyway, I digress. Let's move on.
We're going to take a visit to Georgia, I think.
I think I'm going to have to go to the Orianne Society's places.
I think I'm with you on that one.
You have to check that one out too. So, all right, cool. Let's move on and let's talk about the other side, the dark side, shall we?
Well, let's do this.
This is Dominic Monahan, and you're listening to Urban Jungle Radio. Urban Jungle Radio. Urban Jungle Radio. Urban Jungle Radio. This is Dominic Monahan, and you're listening to Urban Jungle Radio.
Thanks for that, Dominic.
Cheers, Dominic Monahan, for Wild Things.
Cheers. That is a great show.
Yeah, you digging it, huh?
I'm digging it. I missed this past week's episode, but the first couple episodes that I've seen, 3 of them, have been excellent shows, mainly because his goal animal have all been bugs.
That's pretty awesome. He gives loves to the bugs.
He loves the bugs.
Love to the bugs. He always has, man. I remember before I knew he was doing the show, I remember hearing whispers that he was out offering rewards for I think at the time it was the world's largest spider. And, which I'm assuming turned into the Huntsman episode or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So and I know he had these missions, and hey, the more obscure, the more buggy, the more I like it. So yeah, I have to confess I haven't seen all of them, but I will definitely catch up with you.
And there was one episode, I think it was 2 episodes ago, where he was just walking around and he happened across a village, and a guy had a little monitor on a leash.
Like a water monitor?
No, maybe it was a water monitor. I'm not exactly sure. But the guy apparently was holding it for lunch. He was going to eat it. So Dominic gave him money. Took the lizard from the guy, walked maybe 100 yards away from him. He says 100 yards, and he released it back up into the tree. Now that's great, and I love Dominic for it, and I applaud him. But I'm sorry to say, I'm sure that animal still wound up dying.
That's like going up to some homeless guy and be like, give me your chicken McNuggets. I'll give you $2 for your chicken McNugget. Taking his chicken McNugget and then walking over and be like, this is no good for you. Throwing it in the garbage can and then walking away. That motherfucker's just going to go and be like, I want my chicken McNuggets back.
You're going to go pick through that garbage again. That's where he got the chicken nugget to begin with.
Yeah, and took your money and the chicken nuggets. And that's kind of what happened, I guess. This guy probably waited for the camera crew to peel out.
Overall, it's a good show.
No,
I dig it.
Hey, kudos. And listen, man, anybody who comes with anything new and innovative, and has a show. Kudos to you, man, Dominic. Kudos to you for doing the thing, because Lord knows if you leave it up to these executives, man. Have I ever told you guys? I have to tell these guys some major stories coming up soon. So
Yeah,
we're gonna skip it today, but I have to tell you guys some really interesting TV stories coming up in the future, including some experiences that I had in the past, which have given me some tremendous insight to these TV producers and the way they operate. So we'll definitely have to talk about that one at a sooner rate. Andy's giving me
Oh boy.
oh boy. No, it's not. It's not
juicy.
No, it is juicy, but we don't have time. Anyway, I want to talk about Wiggum, which is the other side.
We were talking so positive about things. Now we got to go down this road.
We do. We can't turn our faces to the realities of the situation, Andy.
I know.
And the reality of the fact is that these things are still going on. And, you know, at this point, you have to wonder now. So we have the Klaxton Festival, which we just talked about with Fred Antonio. And Fred painted a good picture of it, you know, working ahead. So now you have to, like, take all this into consideration. Now it's like, okay, so the promoters are happy with it. The crowds are happy with it. They seem to be making more money. Overall, it's win-win-win, right? Why are people hanging on to the old ways? So enter Whigham. Here's Whigham, Georgia. It's a tiny little place in the middle of nowhere, much like Sweetwater. I mean, Sweetwater, if you ever try to travel there, God save your soul, you realize it's in the armpit of the state. And this is not much different with Whigham. It's in the middle of nowhere. So these people have to do what they can to bring money into these, organizations or whatever. So these events, I should say. So Wiggum stands there with their feet firmly planted in the ground, saying they're not going to change. And it's not like the situation there is passable, because from what I've heard from a couple eyewitnesses is the fact that the animals are continuously treated inhumanely, as we would come to expect.
Of course.
I guess the best thing to do is let you hear for yourself from an eyewitness. Of course, we've been very lucky to have Mr. Tom Crutchfield on the show numerous times. Tom is a reptile guru. The man knows reptiles like nobody's business, both wild and in captivity. He recently traveled to the Wiggum Rattlesnake Roundup Festival, which took place about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he laid it down for us and what he saw. And this is essentially how it went down. So I give you Mr. Tom Crutchfield on the Wiggum Rattlesnake Roundups. I just wanted to ask you, I know that you recently had the dubious honor of attending the Wiggum Rattlesnake Roundup, and I just wanted to get your perspective and see if you could tell us about it.
I wanted to go up there for a long time. I've been wanting to get involved in this rattlesnake rodeo thing, but the ones in Texas are a long way off.
Right.
The more I thought about it, I mean, there's only one Rattlesnake Roundup left east of the Mississippi River that actually catches wild snakes. There's actually, I think, maybe 2 or 3 different roundups or 4.
Right.
But none of the others, but the others are just based on more or less of an educational thing about eastern diamondbacks. That's very positive for them as opposed to being negative when the wild caught snakes at all, even allowed.
Right.
We stopped the one we had. We only ever had. In recent years, one in Florida, which was in San Antonio, and that was stopped with live snakes back in the 1970s. And I had a party then, actually, with Dr. Offenberg and a bunch of other people when they did the gopher tortoise races and stuff, too. So that was all done basically at one of the All-Florida Work conferences, and talked out, and then we talked to the people that promoted it. They were more than happy, and they're doing better than ever. So anyway, I wanted to go to the existing one that's left, the one in Wiggum. And I had a chance to, because my lifelong friend, Becky Tucker, was going there. She does the educational programs there. She has nothing to do with the rodeo or the wild snake. So I agreed to go and then meet her. So Patty and I went up there, stay a week, and we spent a few days before then. And I visited some of the hunters that actually bring in the snakes under the pretense that I was a new buyer from Florida that might pay more money. But what I was trying to find out basically was, in fact, how they caught the snakes. That concerned me because the use of gasoline was out a long time ago. Well, even though I had 4 days, I only managed to see 2 of the hunters who actually let me there. One of them had snakes, and they were in a wire cage in the back and had been there for 3 or 4 months. And just real skinny. There was no water in it, and he couldn't put water in it. There was no water when I was there, and it didn't go out there to be me for a long time. And so I'm just trying to imagine this person sitting out there in a wire cage when one night it'll be 32 and the next day it might get up to 90 or 85. You know what I mean? It's just, but in the wild, even though they're cold-blooded, they're subjected to the same temperatures, there's little niches, so they never get those extremes. So they kind of stay on the side. So it really saddened me to think of them as not even a living thing. And that's basically how they think of them. They simply don't realize that they're living, breathing organisms. And they feel pain, and they feel cold, and they just like we do. Maybe not exactly the same, but I mean they did. And maybe in their own way it's worse even. It bothers them more, I don't know. But regardless, it saddened me. And so I talked to them about capturing it. One of them was adamant about not using gasoline anymore, although he had admitted to it in the past. The other one admitted to using gasoline sometimes. So my guess is, there's no way to guess how many people still use it, but I'm guessing at least some of them still do.
Right. I mean, it was obvious that these animals were not in good condition to begin with. I mean, realistically, if somebody would have purchased those animals on the spot, I mean, in your expert opinion, do you think that they would have been able to be turned around and
the only ones that I think would have been able to be turned around would have been ones that were not gassed.
Right.
If they weren't gassed and hadn't been held under too bad conditions for too long, where the renal system or the hepatic system is damaged in some way,
right,
you could probably turn them around. But if they've been gassed, usually what that causes is a mechanical pneumonia situation, like weeks or even a month afterwards.
Right.
And that invariably is fatal. Pretty much I've never seen anyone live through that.
So, I mean, without a doubt, these animals had pretty bleak futures, all of them.
Well, they're dead, every one of them, because there's two guys that fight snakes. And I don't know whether I should mention the names or not. One of them, actually, one guy, I know the other guy's nickname. They buy all the snakes, and they skin them, and one of them makes products from the snake skins.
Uh-huh.
In fact, had booths at the Rattlesnake Rodeo, at the Roundup. About all he had were Eastern Diamondbacks, so I got a chance to talk a long time to him and his son. And I said, if you don't want to buy these snakes, now keep in mind, too, both of these people have pickup places all around the southeastern states and the coastal plain areas of like Alabama, even Florida, and all up into South Carolina, where they're buying Eastern Diamondbacks dead or alive from stations. You realize that's still going on, right? Today.
Yes, unfortunately.
But it's only those two guys, and it's in very small numbers, but I mean, it's still happening.
Right.
So they're using these skins to make most of their products. So what I talked to them about was the vast number of people that have all these snakes in captivity, including beautiful morphs and everything, that occasionally lose animals. And I said, one, big adult albino reticulated python, you can make a lot more products out of than you could, 20 Eastern Diamondback. But they said that the reason this stuff sells is because it is an Eastern Diamondback and that they had no intention at all of stopping. Now, the argument of that is that they don't use enough of them in any numbers that they put any impact on the rattlesnakes per se. Right. Now, that's probably true for the scientific aspect. Mm-hmm. If they're taking a few hundred or even 1,000 a year, that would have very little impact on an animal that's as widespread and is still found in such numbers as the Talatina. But the point is, there's enough other pressures on them that do create problems like fragmentation of the habitats with roads, which invariably kill them, like Indigo. Indigos just go quicker. And all of these other factors, and the fact that you don't have to do that. So why would you kill the snakes when you just simply don't have to do it? I mean, it's not logical. It's like something that you're hanging on to that was really bad for you in the past, but you didn't know it. And even though you know it now, you still want to hang on to it only because that's what you did. I mean, the rodeo doesn't have to do that. Now, I got a chance also to talk not only to the people that bought the snakes, but to the promoters. And I didn't want to, be too aggressive and everything. Mm-hmm. I really, you don't even want to know what I really wanted to do, but in any event, I sat down and talked rational with them, and they are dead set on doing it the old way. I even told them how people would like it better. They would get the business, bring in the snakes. It wouldn't change anything at all, except that they're just not catching and killing wild snakes. That's the only difference. I mean, it wouldn't make any difference at all to them in any way, and they would even make more money, but they still are adamant against changing.
Why do you think that is, that they're so adamant against the change?
I honestly don't know. I did find out, though, since posting and since speaking to you, from someone that lives up there close, that was his dad was a herper friend of mine, that the promoters go to the local schools in and around that area, and always have, and done these little talks on rattlesnakes and the danger that they pose, to livestock and people and all that kind of thing. Right. And justifying why they're catching it. So it may be a thing that they're being taught, like teaching someone to be afraid of a snake, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like an indoctrination, like what we see in Sweetwater, at least what I saw in Sweetwater, where they're teaching the kids from an early age, and they're kind of planning for the next generation.
Right. Well, if you read, the guy's name is Velkamp, and I knew his family before he was even born. Now he's about 7 feet tall, by the way, and an ex-MMA fighter, and he's changed a lot for tag to him. But in any event, he said that his words were that they teach them to be little snake killers from the time they're very young. And this was from a school in Cairo, Georgia. Cairo is a little bit bigger town that sits right next to Wiggum. But the folks were nice. I mean, they were real nice folks, and I talked with them as logically as I knew how to do, and as eloquent as I could possibly be. And they simply, for whatever reason, don't see the real truth, and they don't see that they're going to have to anyway.
I mean, we're obviously seeing a reduction in number of the animals that they've brought into the festival over the years, too.
Yeah, there weren't many. And you know what, too? They hold them for months, too, just like they did the pythons here for this hunt. I mean, they didn't catch these pythons for this hunt, during the hunt. Most of them were caught months prior. Hell, the same with the rattlesnakes there. That one guy that I was at his house that I told you had snakes, he hadn't turned them in yet, but he's had those snakes since last year. I mean, it's been a long time.
God, and of course they're not being kept in any reasonable way. You're not talking about snakes with water dishes and
You're talking about a wire. You're talking about just like that cage you saw.
Right.
Except more rough. It's not built as nice as that. It was sitting off the ground. White flat on the ground, and there was no water in there at all. And it was under a shed, but where the sun could hit it, part of the day.
Right.
And nothing to keep the elements at all. There were no signs of anything. So it sat there in bakes and Easterns don't want to be real hot. I breed a lot of them, and they just don't like to get much over about 85 or so.
Right.
Unless they're maybe grabbing a bass. Must have been over 90 in there, certainly, in the summer.
That's really
you got to understand that they're afraid of them, number one. They're not going to touch them or anything like that. Oh, I asked him about feeding them when I found out how long they'd been. He said that he fed them once. Somebody brought some rats and he threw them all in there. And I said, did they eat them? He says, I think he said the king broke ate. And I guess the rest of the rats just died. I could still see like skeletons and stuff, and I don't think he took them out. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they were more recent rats or whatever, but I did see the one or two rat skeletons in the cage.
Wow.
So, but they just don't know. I mean, he just doesn't know.
So overall, it's just not a good look for a Wiggum Rattlesnake Roundup right now.
No, it's not really. I wish it would be. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, kind of. I was approached after actually we were leaving the festival, and I was approached by someone who, I really can't go into any more detail than that because I could really screw the whole thing up for all of us, and something good could become of it. But there is one like little glimmer of hope, but I don't know what one person can do because there's a number of promoters. There's like one guy that's like the main boss sort of guy,
right?
And then a lot of other like sub promoters, I guess you could call it,
right?
But there were a lot of those snakes, 2 or 3 of those snakeskin places, maybe more, maybe a half dozen of people selling skins.
Wow!
And believe it or not, there were a lot of Atrox products.
Really?
Probably, yes.
Probably all leftovers from Sweetwater and the roundups out west.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. That's
probably because why that is. Probably they can't get enough Easterns. But they never occurred in big numbers. Wiggum, even in the old days, and I can remember from the 60s and 50s, Wiggum might have 400 snakes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, at peak.
Eastern Diamondbacks were just never common.
Yeah, I was going to say at peak, how many animals? So, I mean, you figure at one time they were in the hundreds, and now, this year we're seeing less than 60. I mean, that's not sending a message out. Because there are people out there who, I've actually heard, people who advocate for the Roundup saying that, this whole thing, I know that recently there was a lawsuit being brought about the protection of the Eastern Diamondback, being spearheaded by Dr. Bruce Means. And, there are people out there that swear it's all smoke and mirrors and that these rattlesnakes are fine.
Well, the rattlesnakes, essentially, I've talked to Hayward Clamp, who's an expert on rattlesnakes and all that sort of thing, too, from South Carolina. He'd be a good guy to get on your show about this.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him.
He's somewhat of an opposite position. I would actually strongly suggest that you invite him, and he's certainly a gentleman, and he's been a friend of mine for a lifetime.
Absolutely.
And he grew up with Ron Whitaker. I mean, he and Ron were best friends, too. So.
Oh, nice.
But anyway, the Eastern Diamondbacks, I think, still are common. Okay, they're not rare.
Okay.
But if you compare them to what they were even 10 years ago, the population is definitely declining. Okay, it's declining rapidly. Now, how rapidly, I don't know. But what scares me about Easterns is if I compare it to Bimini boas. Okay, I go to Bimini in 1975, and I see 30 boas in a day. And then I go back to Bimini like 15 years later, and I can't even find one until the third trip, and I find two. And, I mean, we've been looking at that with Loma Linda University. That's a whole different story. But the point is, with the rattlesnakes, what's happening with the declining population like that, and I don't think anybody knows exactly what percentage they are declining. Everybody just agrees they are. And then when you add in the fragmentation of the habitat with roads, because sooner or later, if there's a lot of roads, there's a lot of Easterns, they'll be reduced down to very small numbers.
Right.
And eventually extirpated. That's what happens with indigos.
Well, no, thanks. I appreciate your input on it because obviously we haven't had a chance to really get any firsthand accounts on what happened at Wiggum. So, I mean, even just knowing, getting their mindset is definitely helpful. And I don't know, we got a lot of work ahead of us. I guess that's all I can say.
Yeah, this was actually my first time to think really. I've always wanted to think about more what I can do, and be one person. No one person can do a lot, but if everybody can just step up and do a little bit of whatever they can do, when you add all that together at the end of the year, all of a sudden it becomes sometimes a substantial amount of good things that have happened. So. I've asked anybody if they can help in any way like that to do so, because everything needs all the help it can get, not just Eastern Diamondbacks, but a plethora of creatures here everywhere. And it's a real shame. I mean, it really is. But I've just started on the rodeo thing. I'm not quitting. I mean, I just went the first time just to get an idea of what it's like. But I'm going to continue, and I'm going to do everything I can just to help them succeed as a business and a festival, but just do it in a different way and leave the wild rattlesnakes wild. I really appreciate you inviting me to talk about the rodeo on your show, and something that I hope we're all aware of. And I always enjoy talking to herpers, and thank you very much, Denny.
Oh, thank you, Tom. The pleasure's all ours, and I'm definitely very, very happy to hear that you have your ear on the ground to this, and will be following up in the future, because we need people with your knowledge base to get out there and help change people's minds. So thank you very much for that.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's a great least I can do.
There you go. The great Tom Crutchfield has spoken and let you know what it looked like.
Yeah, doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. And it basically illustrates your worst fears, the fact that these animals are being kept for, an unexcusable amount of time in suboptimal conditions, and then they're going to be exploited and ultimately butchered and killed, so... there's no good. And the whole thing is, okay, there's a lot of argument on whether or not this is sustainable or not. That's no longer the issue. I mean, the fact of the matter is that it's not a sustainable world for these animals. There's roads, there's human encroachment, there's all kinds of factors that are digging into their population every day. They don't need these silly festivities to add to that, which they have contributed a significant amount of mortality over the years. I mean, there's no denying the fact that there would be thousands and thousands and thousands of more rattlesnakes, Eastern Diamondback rattlesnakes and Western Diamondback rattlesnakes out there if it wasn't for these events. So they do make an impact. They are cruel. These are all things that you need to ruminate and digest, because it's happening, and it's obvious that it's not a good thing.
Now, what about the people who say that the Department of Parks and Public Works and all the people that are responsible for keeping, I guess, grounds and reserves, keeping them maintained and making sure everything is okay? What do you say to the people that claim that those organizations and those government entities are killing more than these roundups are doing?
I don't know firsthand if that's a fact. I mean, I know that they're killing these animals by not being more proactive about legislation, protecting them.
No. I mean about them physically doing it themselves, them killing it.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I don't know them themselves killing any animals. I mean, I don't think that anybody does that purposely.
All I'm just saying is I've seen a couple posts from other people on our page. Mm-hmm. Whenever we post anything about rattlesnake roundups and the damage that they do to the populations of the rattlesnakes, how some people come out of the woodwork all of a sudden and say, well, the government does a lot more damage to the environment and to the rattlesnakes than these roundups ever could.
No, there's always going to be people coming out trying to lay blame elsewhere, when the fact of the matter is that these roundups are significant contributors to the demise of these animals, and they will be for a long time, especially the huge ones. I mean, we're seeing evidence of it everywhere. There is not one single rattlesnake roundup that has maintained the historic numbers over, the last 10 years. None. Every single rattlesnake roundup in operation is experiencing declined numbers, and that's because the population is suffering. We know firsthand that the people in Sweetwater are going out farther and farther and farther to get the snakes that they need, and they're still coming up with less numbers. Last year was a historic all-time low. The sale of the snakes was at an all-time high price-wise, price per pound, because there were so few animals to go around. They weren't getting everything that they needed. So, I mean, for the people who will sit there and will make a million excuses, yeah, you can make a million excuses all day long. It doesn't make it right. I mean, the fact of the matter is it's these things are contributing to the death of the animals. And they're, more importantly, even if they didn't, they're inhumane. I mean, the animals are getting their heads hacked off for entertainment purposes. It's time we move past that. I mean, I don't expect people to stop going to SeaWorld and circuses, which you probably should too, but that doesn't even take that kind of a person to be in the mindset to understand that this is wrong, and the way the animals are being treated and the cruelty that the animals are experiencing is wrong on all levels, and that's why these things need to stop. There are alternatives in place. There's no more excuses. We're living in a day and a time when we know that the alternatives are better than what's going out there.
It's been proven.
It has been proven. We've seen it in these new festivals that are popping up. We're seeing the increased popularity. We're seeing it in products. Look, a staple of these rattlesnake roundups is snake skin and snake venom. The venom, you know what? That can be disproven. There's people who will say that the venom is used for rattlesnake anti-venom, and it's possible to an extent it is, but if rattlesnake roundups ceased, that would not affect venom production in any way, because there are still private facilities like Kentucky Reptile Zoo that have rattlesnakes in captivity. They get milked and then returned harmlessly to their enclosures to live out their lives, where they will be repeatedly making contributions to this type of thing. So there's no need for the roundups in that sense. Skins, that's stupid. I mean, first and foremost, you just got to get off of your reliance on selling skins if there aren't enough to go around. And there are alternatives. JKR gear, for instance. JKR are actually wonderful sponsors of the Urban Jungles radio show, and they have a fantastic product right behind me, the biomeld process, which they have. This right here, for those of you who aren't able to watch right now, I'm holding up a 6-foot long Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake skin, almost in completion. I mean, it's so big that here I can barely hold it all the way up. To show you guys in the camera, this is good, Andy. So essentially, thank you. Essentially, what we're seeing is this beautiful skin. Now, if you can see this, it looks like rattlesnake skin. It feels like rattlesnake skin. It moves like rattlesnake skin. It can be used in every single application that an actual skin can be used in without sacrificing the animal. Here's the beauty of it. This is made from the shed skin of a rattlesnake, not the actual skin of a snake that was slaughtered for it, but the actual shed skin of a rattlesnake. This rattlesnake, in fact, lives at the Kentucky Reptile Zoo, where it frequently donates venom that's used in the production of anti-venom. The difference is this snake will continue to produce these beautiful skins thanks to work between KRZ and JKR gear. So the same snake will go on to produce dozens and dozens and dozens of skins, which can be used in the fashion industry, can be used in any application where rattlesnake skins are used right now. But it can be used in a way that's so much more sustainable. The fact of the matter is, these animals don't need to be killed for their skins any longer. There is a great alternative out there in so many ways. There's an alternative to the festivals. There's alternatives to the products being used. There's alternatives all the way around, and no reason whatsoever for these roundups to continue. So Georgia is the last holdout in the sense that they have got one roundup left. Now, I think that earlier today, Fred hit a great point when he said that as herpers, we need to go out and support these new festivities to show the fact that it's something that we're interested in, and of course, making them economic successes, which is unfortunately what it always boils down to, is money. Always. These people want to make money. If they continue to make money, then they will be happy and they will continue on the way that will be good for the animals. And of course, this is great. I mean, awareness is spectacular. It's what we want. And that's what these organizations are pushing at these shows. So my long-winded rant essentially is that rattlesnake roundups have no place or purpose in this day and time whatsoever. your supplies are dwindling. It's time for you to face the music and face the realities of the fact that it can't go on forever. So just give it up now. Give it up now and do it with people who are willing to help you. I've put this out before and I'll put it out again to the Sweetwater JCs. I will help you make the most fantastic rattlesnake celebration ever that will draw people from all over the world. Myself with many other talented individuals that will pledge their support and help. If you would consider this, there is no reason for you guys to continue on the path that you're doing. The snakes aren't going to last forever, and you're only going to do damage to yourself and your own ecosystem. So it's something you definitely need to consider out there, Rattlesnake Roundup people. Woo! Woo! I'm drinking my wine because that was a show, people. Woo! Seriously, come on, guys.
You showed that beautiful shed skin and talked about it. And we had it at the NARBC show in Tinley Park in October. Mm-hmm. And people were amazed that it was an actual shed. People initially
weren't believing it.
People were afraid to come to our table because they saw the skin and they naturally assumed that it was from it was from a dead animal. Okay?
Right.
It only was after we came from around the table and stood in front and started talking to the people about it, mainly the kids, to get them, they're the future. They're the ones that need to know exactly what's going on with this. They're the ones that are going to teach their parents.
Yep.
They're the ones that are going to teach future generations how what we're currently doing with leather and snakeskin, it's not sustainable. We are destroying our environment at an alarming rate. This is the 21st friggin' century. We need to get out of this barbaric belief and barbaric view of everything. Now, I'm a meat eater. I know where my meat comes from. I'm very smart about where I buy my meat from, so I'm socially conscious of this issue. But had I not, taken the time to know exactly where everything that I eat comes from, I'd be blindly eating any steak or any burger that comes from anywhere and just continuing this trend of just the mass slaughtering that's going on.
Horse meat.
McDonald's.
Eating horse meat. That's Burger King. Time for change, people. This is it. Seriously, this is the time to act. It's the rattlesnake season is here now. It's already too late for this year. So you have to work harder. I expect nothing less, especially if you consider yourself a jungle junkie.
Mm-hmm.
Ban people from seeing a show. Call up your sheriff so he can make him go. The town chief came back from the dead to fight for the right to chop off heads. You got a big tip from the interwebs to be on the lookout for Danny Mendez. You hear he's rolling with his partner Sky. You were all set to stop him if they even tried. Now you look dumb cause it's all online. Your whole collective group shares one spine. You brought a 6-shooter to settle the score. And now Bob and Colin are knocking at your door. And you piss in your pants. Never happened before, now you look like a fool. I seen you writing online, you should have stayed in school. Collective IQ over colony events. And you piss in your pants. See if you can bite with your mouth sewn shut. Take your dumb machete and shove it up your butt. Leave the snakes alone, enough is enough. Now it's time for a change. You need to learn about sustainability and the legal definition of cruelty. You don't want to listen or take advice. The time is gone for us to be nice. The legend and the manimal are in your face. They're wiping out your roundup at a rapid pace. Bet you never thought that your roundup would end after setting up an ambush with all of your friends. You thought a Cuban and a blonde were a major threat. Now you see the Aussies and your crotch is wet. You pissed in your pants. Perfectly normal for you to have to pee. My bladder'd be loose if those guys were after me. And now you need to change your drawers cause you pissed in your pants. To be fair, you probably didn't know the mess you got into with the Urban Jungle Show. Please stop acting like you're gonna sue. You can't even spell lawsuit. Last week, you saw a film. As you recall, it was a YouTube film. Got your panties all in a bunch. When you saw Bob and Colin would have you for lunch. Pissed in your pants. Walking to the skinning pit, your cell phone beeps. Your partner just sent you an Urban Jungles tweet. You realize the citation was a big mistake. Pissed in your pants. Next day, you're sewing steak mouth shut. And you pissed in your pants. Look over and see a dude in khaki walking. Pissed in your pants. When Ray Autry makes a post and roar. Pissed in your pants. You just saw a snake. Pissed in your pants. And you tried to pissed in your pants. I mean, seriously, just stop messing with the snakes. You piss right in your pants because you know you've gone too far. You learn your lesson cause you don't fuck around with UJR. It's urban jungles together with RARR. Spread the word about roundups and don't forget who we are.
And you'll be
pissed in your pants. Because you pissed in your pants. Yes, you pissed in your pants. Urban Jungles Radio.
Oh, my jungle junkies. What can I tell you? The fact that you are just missing out on how fashionable the snakeskin can be, Andy. Tell him, Andy.
I'm pissing my pants.
On that note, thank you to all of my jungle junkies for
Thank you,
doing
everyone.
our show tonight. Special thanks to Tom Crutchfield, to Mr. Fred Antonio, Orianne Society, and everybody who listened. And oh my God, goodbye, people. Love you all.
Master has spoken. Gather, all you jungle